Well, now it was time for me to set a real goal. Now it was time for me to set a goal that Joe Stone would have set for himself before he ever had his accident. And the goal was to come back to Montana and bike the Going to the Sun Road up in Glacier National Park using nothing but the power of my arms. So you ride these bikes where you're cranking both arms at the same time. And I don't know if you guys have ever driven that road or biked it or been on it, but there's 12 miles of climbing up a steep hill, up a mountain. And so I set this goal for myself, and I had no idea if this was possible. At this point, I'd never even sat on a hand cycle. But so I got back, got a hand cycle. This is about 9 months after my accident, so I had 3 months to train. And the reason why I had 3 months to train is because I wanted to do this one day before the 1-year anniversary of my accident. So I got my hand cycle and went for my first ride. It was 2 miles. Now I'm in the first mile of it, and I'm loving it. I'm having a blast. I'm going faster than my wheelchair will ever go. Great time. And I get to the other end, and I got to turn around and come home. Start biking. All of a sudden, it just got really hard. I realized that whole first mile, I was going downhill. But if you poured water on this hill, I don't think it would actually roll downhill. That's how flat this really was. But that slight incline made it to where I could only go about 20 feet, and I would have to stop and take a break, drink water, let my muscles relax, go 20 more feet. It ended up taking about 2 hours for me to bike 2 miles. But I got home, was pretty frustrated, didn't really know what I just set up for myself. Like, this was hard, hand cycling, that's really hard. And there's no book out there that'll tell you what's possible in my situation. But instead of letting that get to me, I ended up still pushing forward. The very next day, I went with one of my buddies, and we went for my first big ride. It was a little over 13 miles. Had a lot of hill climbing. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but my buddy was there for me for support. He said, if you need help pushed up a hill, I'll help you out. It's no big deal. Let's just go do it. 13 miles, 5.5 hours later, I made it home. I did everything but about 50 feet of one hill. And that's when it made it very clear to me. This is just like every other hobby, every other thing I've done in my life. Like I said before, the beginning of it is challenging, but it gets easier after the first time. So I started training really hard. I ended up having a really big moment on my longest day of training. This is right before the ride. And what it was is I went for a 39-mile ride. I did it completely by myself. So I was back to doing these kind of things by myself again, which was, remarkable in itself. But then when I got done with the ride, I felt great the whole time. I'm looking at my computer stats. Longest ride I'd ever been on. Highest speed was 42 miles an hour. I hadn't gone that fast on a hand cycle yet. That was sweet. I enjoyed seeing that. But the thing that really clicked for me was that I went the longest ride and had the highest average speed that I had had yet. I finally hit 10.0 miles an hour for that whole ride. Those don't usually mix. Your longest ride's usually a slower average. And all of a sudden, I was just flooded with all the same emotions that I used to get with before my accident, only they were more powerful. And it was the emotions of accomplishing a goal, of making things happen, of feeling good about myself, feeling confident again. And I realized in that moment that it's not about the piece of gear, the speed flying wing, the mountain bike, whatever it is you're into. That's not why we love these things so much. It's about the emotions that we're chasing. It's about setting goals for ourselves and accomplishing them. And so I'm sitting there in this parking lot by myself. There's people, getting their bikes unloaded and loaded in their cars. And I couldn't even help it. I started punching my fist together. And I'm back. Joe Stone's back. I'm back. And I actually caught a glance from a couple people. And I'm pretty sure they thought I was crazy. But I couldn't help it. I was too excited. I didn't care what people thought about me at that point. And that's when I knew that I was going to be able to take this disability further than what I ever imagined.